Hello. So I am looking at the chart for April 16th, 2026. There's some big energy coming around that time. And I just thought it would be kind of cool to look at what's happening over there. I did do some noodles. I didn't do as much as I typically do, but I did pull some cards for it, so I figured if I wrote less, I'd read more, I guess. Hopefully that wasn't so loud on the ears, that paper sound. Okay, so the chart that came out at this time is 21 degrees ascendant in Virgo. So it's Virgo Rising is the chart. You may associate with being a Virgo Rising, have placements, whatever. It's not necessarily for a Virgo rising, but there was uniquely a lot of Virgo and Mercury energy that came through. So I did it, I always do my things just a little bit weird. So this one is called the Sleeping Giant. And I think one of the reasons why I thought Sleeping Giant is just because over here we have an event that's going to be taking place. So when we're looking at this energy, it's also in the 8th house, which is considered a trauma house, a secrets house, where we deep dive into our own psyche and battle and deal with our shadow selves, where we experience the shadow selves of other people. Now, when you're looking here at Mars and Saturn is the wall, quite literally the wall. Mars is like the wrecking ball hitting the wall. So there's this weird energy that's happening with a wall. It could also be authority figures, right? One of the things about Aries and Mars is that this is like the beginning of the zodiac. So something new comes, right? And Saturn is considered a powerful figure, but also old. There's an energy of old. You can think of grandfather in that kind of regard, or the name dinosaur came to mind. So there's an energy of dinosaur versus young prime energy versus slowness, the energy between the two of them. And then over here you have Mercury and Neptune. They're both at 2 degrees. They are separated by a few minutes. These guys are separated by literally 2 minutes exactly. So I guess 222 could also be a thing. I did write down here that 1221, 2112, 1212, and 2121 may be of significance. You could be seeing those numbers in sequence. It could be a thing. Could be a time that's relevant. And then randomly over there in the corner, I wrote 12:26 a.m. Not sure why I wrote that, because when I do my readings, I kind of write down something that was important, and sometimes I don't remember why I wrote it down. So something about these times might be significant, maybe for you or for the world. What was it? It was April 17th, 2026 is the day that we're looking at 5:05 and 40 seconds p.m. And I started doing some of this a couple days ago, and then, what was it, the 12th? Yeah, that's so funny. So I started doing this reading on the 12th. It is now the 21st at 8:11. That's so funny. All right, so again with time. So I'm going to definitely say 1221, high probability, something about that number. Okay, anyway, welcome. So I did write down that it was the spring equinox yesterday. which was yesterday is when I wrote it down. And I shuffled some cards out of the deck, two different ones. For whatever reason, I decided to go 2 different decks. So the first one I had come out was 8 of Swords. And I'll see if I can get it close enough so you can see it. There you go, maybe. So 8 of Swords. If you can see, we have the Gemini symbol over here, and we have Miss Venus over here on that side. So we want to pay attention to those particular placements, or how, like, for example, Venus might act in a Gemini sign, which would be kind of flirtatious, hanging out with everybody, you know, trying to bring people together, something like that, like the, you know, social butterfly kind of energy. And then if we think about the 8 of Swords, you know, we have the 8th house over here. We have an energy of walking away from something that used to feel comfortable that no longer does. And when we have these 2 guys here, they symbolize something that ceases to be. It's one of those changes that we don't come back from kind of energy. So if it's in the 8th house, one of the unfortunate things that I have learned through my own chart and through studies of other people, when Mars is in the 8th house, there can sometimes be very traumatic situations surrounding sex, because Mars is considered sexual organs, or the male sexual organ. So it's in the 8th house in conjunction with Saturn. So there's also, like, for example, over here, Mercury, which could rule over the media. It would be like journalists, anybody that the media or anything like that, paparazzi even sometimes. And the medium in which these energies come through isn't just always in text or word or spoken mouth. It is through a visual, which is what Neptune rules over. It's kind of like what you're watching me on right now is a Neptunian type of energy. You're watching me on a screen, either on your phone or on a computer or something like that. Movies are ruled underneath that. Music can be audibly, because, you know, it can also be like that. But we may learn about some spicy things to do with authority figures that are of a particular not awesome energy. That's a potential. If I took that energy out of that, when we think about we're trying to heal what we may have gone through as a child or at some point through our life, or we're going through resistance and letting go versions of ourselves that are sometimes not always the best, or we need something that gives us the will to fight to change something, either about our situation or ourselves. And the energy of Neptune would be, in a way, you know, because, like, if you look at the 2 of Saturn is the brakes and Mars is the gas. The 2 of them coming together, slammed on each other, ain't going nowhere too fast, right? We have come to an impasse. We have come to a dispute that cannot be solved in some way, shape, or form, which means that there is some sort of communication blurriness, or at this point it could mean that whatever has been blurred or deceptive, which is another energy, Mars being in between these 2 can be an energy of breaking an illusion, which we have kind of gone through that as a collective, the breaking of the illusion of the way that our governments and our countries and our world are run, the breaking of the illusion, what is real and what is imagination. Mars is the scissors and the swords just coming through there and saying, we're walking away from that, we're not doing that anymore. It normally depicts a girl who has her arms kind of like bound to her, and she's got a blindfold on, and she's walking through, like, we'll call it a landmine of swords. And sometimes that in its own right is talking about how sometimes we have to have faith, which is a very Neptune word. We have to have faith when we cannot see Mercury. Even if decisions we make, there is no easy decision. Sometimes, like, a sword is a blade cuts. Sometimes there are certain things that we cannot do, or decisions we cannot make without feeling something, or hurting someone, or losing something like that, and this energy is asking, what has felt super heavy? What walls of resistance do we have that we need to maybe bust down, eradicate? What things, the 8th house could be considered the house of nightmares also, even though the 12th house would, in theory, rule over that. The energy of the 8th house is kind of like what inspires the dreams, in a way. It's a very telepathic type of house. To have Neptune in that house, you may have super vivid dreams. You might be seeing people, loved ones. You might have a lot of deja vu or weird stuff like that happening. But also the energy of Canis Minor is the dog, which is the protector. The energy of, the idea of, again, we think about the girl with her arms wrapped tightly around herself and a blindfold, and she's terrified and she doesn't know where she's going, and a big decision has come, and this is saying, even though it looks scary, you're protected. Even if you don't feel like it, if we listen to our intuition, even though it provokes us to do some kind of weird stuff sometimes we don't really understand, and even, like, for example, I felt guided to do this thing, and then I did this thing, and then it turned out bad, and now I'm questioning my intuition. Sometimes it's not necessarily the result of it that mattered. It's the test of bravery in some kind of form. Now the next card we got was the 7 of Pentacles. It did come in reverse. I'm going to show it to you reverse first. I always say, kind of like, defocus your eyes and see what you see before I flip it. And there we go. So the 7 of Pentacles normally means to take something while it's hot, something like the fruit is ripe. Let's pay attention to the ripeness of the situation. Could literally be the ripeness of something coming to fruition. But we want to think that the energy of this card has the Virgo Mercury kind of energy. And we had Gemini and Venus energy. Now that could say when Venus enters Gemini, because she will shortly, so she's on her way in there, something important happens. Now, sometimes Venus literally rules over feminine figures. It can be a woman, surprisingly, because Uranus is there. She has to pass over Uranus to get there, and it's also in the 10th house. A woman surprisingly rises to power in some kind of way. It kind of has a left field kind of energy, and she's also one of our 21s, right? Her in series 2112. So the energy of Venus so she's surprise, lifted up energy. Now, with this card in the reverse, sometimes it could feel like, like, for example, these two together can feel like there's been a delay or a hard stop or something in the way of our passions or drives, something we're trying to do, whatever it is. The 8th house also rules over money, right? So another thing you want to think about is down here. we have Pluto and Juno. This is a contract. And it's happening in the 6th house. And the 6th house rules over like our purpose and what we do for work and, you know, like our daily experience. So there could be a really huge contract coming in literally for a woman, because it repeats Juno is a woman, right? Powerful women coming into power could be a thing, so, something like that. And so I noticed those two cards kind of stood out to me because I was like, okay, something about Mercury. Now, Mercury has been in retrograde. I'm not quite sure if Mercury is in retrograde right now at this minute. Let me go. I'm going to actually check live while I'm doing this with you. Mercury looks like it just turned direct like a few hours ago. So it's sitting directly in the North Node right now. As you can see, Mercury is quite a ways past the North Node now, because this is Mercury here, this is North Node. So currently in this moment, the North Node is here in Pisces, but for this chart, it's shoving it differently. But Mercury right now is in the North Node. And the North Node is considered a door. The North and the South are literally doors. The door is where we're, the North Node is where we're going, and the South Node is what we're leaving behind, what we have brought with us, but we are trying to walk away from something. And like that's the kind of same energy of this, is walking away from a comfort zone. So as we look over here in this chart, we notice there's our part of fortune, luck, our ascendant, 21, 12, 21. It keeps doing this thing. I'm thinking there's something about 1221 for sure. But when the South Node goes through the first house, we can have a tendency to hyperfixate on other people, other situations, and kind of neglect ourselves. Now, Virgo rules over our immune system. It rules over our electrical system. It rules over like this area here, kind of like, if you can imagine, our lungs are here, which is also a Mercury energy, and then our stomach here is the moon. But Virgo rules over the top of it, kind of like our, like for example, our anxiety center is very Virgoan. Our immune system is very Virgoan. So the energy of this is a hyper awareness for us to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. That, the South Node can mean to release toxic things to do with self-image, because the first house is, one of the places that rules over the body and how we are, like how people see us. So sometimes when the South Node goes through a place that's associated with the body, it could look like we lost weight of some sort. You want to make sure if you're trying to lose weight that you're doing it healthy, right? The part of fortune means that, there is something, 12 is always associated with Jupiter. Jupiter is a 12 number. So in that regard, we would say, what is the energy that Jupiter is bringing? Friendships, could be collaborations, could be something to do with long-term hopes, goals, wishes, could be investors of some sort, could be growth and potential and prospects as far as future. I hear renovations, but I don't know what renovations would mean in regards to the house of friendship. But renovations to the body, if we're doing something to the body, it would be considered through the stomach, I guess one might say. Or following through with gut instincts on making some sort of prospect in that area, or maybe working with a friend. Our friendship area is growing. Jupiter is kind of like big and vast, so it can make those areas lot of big a lot. And this is funny because this was in reverse. But if you see at the top it says spring. This card literally rules over the spring equinox, and that's when I pulled it. It was yesterday. I was like, you gotta be shitting me. But she was also in reverse. So when we think about contracts, for example, or opportunities surrounding money, or leads surrounding money, this energy might say, exercise caution if you're trying to merge with somebody in a private manner. There's more luck in a public type of something. And down here, the energy of the 6th house is naturally ruled by Virgo. Virgo likes precise detail. Like, what exactly is it that this contract means for me, for you? What do we get? So Pluto and Juno, that is a very long-term contract. That is, and also Pluto could be considered, if we would say, the detective of the sky. Mercury is the informant, but Pluto is the detective. It's the one that sees the things that people really don't want to see. So one could say that we have multiple opportunities being able to come to us at this time, simply because the part of fortune is there, and it implies that it already went through the South Node, which could mean that this is an offer from the past that we may not have acted on before, that we might get an opportunity to come back to, which could be nice, because Mercury had gone through the Mercury retrograde area. Now, the other one is Capricorn and Saturn. So, Saturn is here. And where's my Capricorn? Down here in the 5th house. So, whatever house that we have ruled by Saturn is automatically something that takes a long time. Something that requires patience. Something that requires us to not take shortcuts. Some things that sometimes feel very hard and frustrating, and we sometimes, especially this energy here, the 5th house is like what makes us happy. You might have to be very serious about playing, making time for play, making something that's kind of hard work our hobby. And our structural integrity in some kind of manner. So these houses are considered squaring each other. So that means that the Saturn-Mars conjunction squaring this energy with a couple of these cards in reverse, especially if we get the Ace of Pentacles, a delay in something that may have, I don't necessarily think it's ended. It might have just, the way in which we were trying to do it had to change. Nonetheless, it's still an opportunity. So if I let's just click on these guys. Yeah. So this is also considered a dating house, right? It has to do with our kids, our creative babies, our actual babies. Sometimes where we take, gambles and risks and stuff like that. And so when Cupido is here, Cupido sometimes has something to do with family, or it comes with an ideal of something. And so sometimes that might say there's friction within family, and it's affecting us. But the beautiful thing is that 29 degrees, lot of spirit, shows that something that you're doing currently in this moment, even though it is in opposition, it feels bad, it's hard, whatever this energy is, it is actually in line with something you're supposed to be doing right now. And the energy of, though it may feel hard and difficult, And though it may challenge the perception or the idea of what we wanted or somebody, you know, something to do with the ideals of love, you know, the challenge of that, there's still some sort of long-term energy coming up. You know, here we have Miss Venus up here talking to all of this energy. And it seems like a long-term commitment of some sort, though challenging, can offer sometimes, you know, like higher knowledge, higher learning. If I didn't go through that experience, maybe I wouldn't have learned as much, you know. It's also like the house of God, you know, the energies of government, sometimes the way that we act out, you know, legal battles with family members, and because Mars rules over the third house, it could be siblings, something to do with the siblings. We fight about something. I would say it could be something from childhood, inheritance, maybe some things. But it could also be high stakes mergers or deals of some sort. So those are the cards that I came up with for that, and I thought, you know, those would be good areas to look at. And then, so I'm going to start trying to read through some of my noodles here, and I thought a lot about what's happening in the world and different energies like that. And one of the things that is going to be coming up is that Saturn is going to be squaring Pluto. And a couple years ago, when we experienced 2020, those two were in conjunction with each other. And that was a very hard, the world shutting down type of energy. So when they square each other, conjunctions and squares are very intense with certain type of energies. So there does seem to be a health of an authority figure could be very intense. The health of big deals and how they result. You know, these both rule over health energies, the person and the collective energies, how we physically experience those energies. But I noticed that Gemini and Virgo energies came out both ruled by Mercury. So I was looking at Mercury and I thought that was important. Then there's the Aries, Taurus, Gemini area. So this whole area is what the card for the spring equinox is talking about. So this whole area of the chart is like on fire. And then if you notice, we have 7 planets in one sign. That's very rare to get a bunch of inner planets and outer planets all in the same house at the same time. It's very rare to have that happen. So, and I do believe the conjunction of all the planets where everybody's in the sign it's kind of like April 16th into early 17th, when all of them are still in the same house, because you want to still account for the moon, because the moon moves the fastest. So at this time, from Mercury right down here, all the way to the sun, all of those planets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all 7 of them are in this energy. And the 8th house is kind of like a carryover from the 7th. And we've had a lot of eclipses in this house. And it's funny that the South Node is here, but it's pushing it into the 6th house, because they should technically be across from each other. But it's saying, this is how I feel it. All right, so I noticed that. And then, for whatever reason, I started getting the 21, 12, 12, all that kind of stuff going through there. And so I decided I would do some cards. But this one has countries on it. And so we got the 9 of Hearts, which is Athens, Greece. I'm going to see if I can hold it so you can see it, hopefully, maybe. There we go, ish. Okay, so 9 of Hearts, We have the Ace of uh, Clubs. This is Paris, France. I'm sorry, I can't get it to focus on the words, but trust me, Eiffel Tower. And then we had Mumbai, India. India came out twice. Came out twice. I'm sorry, my light sucks. I can't really get it any better. I'm sorry. Okay. But anyway, so the 9 plus aces equal 1, 4s, jacks equals 11. All together they equal 25. They result in 7. We have 7 planets. Literally. So the energy of 7 is important. We have 7 planets here, and we also have the 7th house here that we probably should, pay attention to. But 7 planets, and the cards equal 7. Can't make that shit up. Okay, so what I did is I decided to look into the countries that came up. Because India came up twice, I'm going to say hot spot. It can sometimes be ruled by the energy of Aries. So I wrote down Gemini energy and countries and things that happen in those countries or that energy. Excuse me. Okay, so Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so it rules over communication, what I'm doing with you right now. Duality, energies of 2, or to sometimes be two-faced, or the energy of that. It rules over trade, which I underlined because I thought that was super important, and intellectual agility. It does rule over bridges or gateways. So, gateways, south node, north node, those are also considered gateways. And Libra rules over the bridges. So, it rules over words and documents. Okay. Massive transportation or highways, large systems, physical traders, which it could be talking about the stock market traders, could be day traders or something like that. And multifaceted entities. So I wanted to know, okay, what are the countries that are ruled by that energy? Well, the United States comes up because freedom of speech is a big deal. It is a global hub for media and tech. Media, and whereas in tech down here is Aquarius, but anyway. And then we had Belgium, linguistic and duality. Armenia, which is ancient medieval texts. Iceland, isolated yet connected. Don't talk to me, but talk to me. Wales, a strong tradition of poetry and song, which poetry and song, Venus is the voice, right? And Italy, home to the two-faced god Janus, or Janus, excuse me, could be, I don't know. Anyway, and also points to Romulus and Remus, the twins, mirroring the Castor and Pollux mythology that defines the Gemini constellation. I don't know if that's important to you, but that's what I found. Anyway, so then I went on to the energies of Virgo, because, again, Mercury rules both of those. So Virgo is a very analytical, very precision-based energy. It is very organizational, focused, likes to have systems. It rules over the working class. And that might be why there's something about this energy up here. Something about that area. Them 7 planets and all. It works, it's the working class. It rules over health, service, routine, engineering, healthcare, and high-quality craftsmanship, which Mercury rules over the hands, where we create things a lot, and the mind, where we create things a lot. So the number one country that came out is Switzerland. I can tell you that place is immaculate. There, like, there is nothing. There is no trash on the ground. There is no broken fences. There is no out of control grass. They have very specific, it has to look like a movie at all times kind of energy. So it rules over actual watches, which is time, which is Saturn, right? All right. So it also rules over world-class banking, which this house rules over banking, right? This is how we earn the money. This is where we put the money. So there's a lot to do with possibly banking that could be coming up. And it is obsessed, Pluto, down here, with cleanliness and order, right? So then we also look for Greece. History of philosophical analysis, agricultural, what was the word I was trying to say? It was, could be where I got the giant energy, but anyway, olives, vines, and wines is what I wrote down. And then Turkey has a lot to do with trade as a historical role. Like their whole existence has a lot to do with trade. Brazil is agricultural and it provides many resources. Uruguay, orderly social systems, high literacy rates, and social welfare and public health. So these energies are ruling over the health of something. And then we looked into Capricorn. So the energy, and the reason why we're looking into Capricorn was because this last card here, the Ace of Pentacles, that I think I probably forgot to show you. The Ace of Pentacles is ruled by the Saturn energy, which rules over energies of longevity, structure, tradition, the climb to the top mentality. It has a serious public image. If you ever notice, like, people who are very Capricorn have a very, I am so fucking serious about this right now. Like, they're always serious. Like, it's also a mask when it's a rising energy, but it's like the hard stoic. And it has a serious public image and deep respect for history. There's a talent for building systems that last for centuries. High altitude regions that are rocky and sometimes cold. Now, China didn't come up, and neither did Japan, in the energy of this, as far as those go, but in my mind, those two countries are very Capricorn as far as longevity, lasting through time. Like, when they build something, it lasts forever because they did a very good job with it. But, excuse me. But the fact that India came up twice, and then when I was doing this research, India came out again, there's something for me about India, either India getting involved in something, forced into something, or becoming some sort of lead in something. The connection to ancient traditions can sometimes be a rigid but enduring social hierarchy. And it has had a very slow and steady rise to global power. When we do things, especially, sorry guys, when we do things, when we build something from the ground up, whether it's a relationship or it's a creation of some sort, music, art, can be books, can be anything you want, anything that takes you a long time to do. I just heard a word and it just disappeared. But anyway, so the energy of this house is important. It takes us a long time, but the long time makes whatever you're working on last. So it's not like you did something and it was just gone. This is something that's like a legacy energy. So India has a very long legacy energy. And I also wrote down here that India is very dharma based, and it's very focused on rightful duty, and it's not a quick win energy. These energies or people are looking to leave a legacy. So sometimes we might say that someone who was a powerful leader, who may have been a great one, has, a legacy moment. And also sometimes that are, because Saturn is considered in its detriment in Aries, while the sun is being exalted and Mars is there, that one of these people are not having a good dharma moment. They're having a karma, which is also another word for the 8th house is a karma house. And then we also got Mexico, which is deeply rooted in ancestral traditions and its literal stone history of the Aztec and Mayan pyramids, the cultural emphasis on family as a structured institution. So when a country focuses on the dynamic of family, the power of family, or the power of community in some type of way. Sorry guys, I'm yawning. Okay, and then I got the United Kingdom, because it is defined by the monarchy, which can be another word for Saturn, which Venus here is in the place we would consider the monarchy, because the 9th house rules over legal proceedings. It rules over kings and queens and presidents and churches and higher colleges and, different things like that. And then we also got Bulgaria, one of the oldest established state traditions in Europe, surviving centuries of shifting borders. And then we also had Afghanistan. Now there's quite a few names that came out that are underneath the energy of Aries. One of the things you could say about certain countries is if they have constantly been in war, experiencing war, are always fighting for something, the energy of that country is Aries, because it's a warlike energy. It may not be their rising sign, but that energy presides over them in some kind of way. Mars rules, or Aries rules over something to do with that country. So Afghanistan is considered a rugged mountainous area, which, Saturn likes mountain goats, all that kind of stuff. And it's historically the unconquerable, which, when that word unconquerable came up, and then I'm looking at Mars knocking down a wall, it's kind of like saying the unsinkable with the Titanic. It's kind of like a dangerous word to use associated with that. But it does show that their massive endurance even when experiencing something heavy or restrictive or a block or a hurdle, even if it is a power structure of some sort. So I have no idea if anything I said resonates in any kind of way. But I did want to take a second to talk about, historically, over time, Mars and Uranus. In this chart, Uranus is like 20 degrees away from being in Gemini. And historically, every single time Mars and Uranus come into contact with each other, somebody does something stupid. If we can think about what happened to Japan when, an explosive was dropped, it happened when Mars was in conjunction with Uranus and Gemini. So when we think about these 7 planets being here in the 8th house, which is a collective type of trauma where everybody feels something very personal, and the energy of the world, how the world sees an event. To me, it looks like there could be a woman who rises to power, maybe someone who can't necessarily stop what's already begun, but by her energy of being pushed up into I kind of feel like it's a dignified stance. I feel like a woman of prominence takes a stand of some sort towards something. I just want you to whatever's happening in the next few months, whatever you see specifically, whatever we see, Mercury can literally rule over the eyes, even though that's the area of Mars that rules that house, right? Mercury rules over what the eyes see and what the ears hear, right? Be careful on what we see, what you take in, because if it's coming in the energy of the 8th house, we want to make sure that we're not traumatizing ourselves for no good reason. You know, that can be an unnecessary thing that we could do to ourselves for the fun of it. It's not really fun, but, you know, the energy of that. It seems like a lot of information. It seems like a lot of events. It seems like it's very personal for a lot of people. And you have to be careful about your health. All of us do. You know, this is a collective energy. The way that we experience what's happening in the world really does have a lot to do with health. And it can be, you know, because we have the anti-vertex in the 12th house, we could say sometimes I'm unconscious to the reason why I initiate or do something or act on something, say something, whatever it is. The 12th house is considered like the area behind our head right here where we can't see. I can't see the back of my head. You could put a mirror here, but I still need the mirror in order to see it. And the mirror is in the 7th house, right? That is the mirror. But the energy of this is showing you that mental health and physical health are super important, not just for you, but for everybody. And the health, like traumatic events that hit a collective of some sort. So let's hope that, you know, if we have to progress into certain warlike type of energies, that we don't get an idiot with their thumb on a button. That is a, you know, what is it, 2 months away, 3 months away? That energy kind of makes me feel uncomfortable. Because I also have charts that I have been studying to try and understand like what certain energies have been historically. One of my favorite places to learn about astrology and history is the Astrology Podcast. I think they're fucking phenomenal. But one of the things I did is I was going through and I was looking at certain energies that happened in the specifically on August 6th, 1945 at 8:16 in the morning, Little Boy was dropped. And when I look at Little Boy's chart, Uranus was at 16 degrees in conjunction with the midheaven of this chart at 16 degrees, and Mars was a few degrees away from Uranus. So we have the next several years the Mars-Uranus cycle. That doesn't mean right away, as soon as Mars makes a conjunction with Uranus, that we have to worry about Kim On-jun doing something stupid, you know, an idiot with a button, or, you know, Orange doing something dumb, something along those lines. You know, we have, you know, also any energies under Aries energies making big drastic When we find ourselves closed in, the kind of energy that we have when we explode out. So anything that happens in the world can be zoomed into our own life. So if we think about how we're experiencing something, the energy of being closed in or diverted away from something, or something not working out, it looks like whatever didn't work out is okay. Is okay, because it looks like whatever is coming after that is going to be better. But this energy is kind of asking you to pay attention to the health. If you're exposing yourselves to something that can potentially be harmful to your psyche, I would tell you to stop that. Even if it's news, stepping away from the news, because we can become obsessed over something, and the 6th house is something we do daily, almost like OCD. So I have no idea if any of this helped anybody. I hope that everybody has a wonderful day. I hope that something I said helped somebody in the world, in the existence of the universe, and I thank you very much for hanging out with me to listen to me blab and discover what I discovered. Thank you.